Hi, it's November 2022 and the winter is coming. Recently, the gas price has gone up a lot, so I thought that some of you might not have sufficient budget to pay the heating cost of your house during the winter. Therefore, I decided to make this video and introduce you to an old technology that Iranian people have been using it for many centuries to keep themselves warm during the cold months. So first, I'm going to tell you a bit of theory and then I will show you the technology. Obviously, nothing comes totally for free. So in this method, you are going to save the money that you need to pay for the heating, but you have to sacrifice something else, and that is your comfortness. So keep that in mind. All right, so assume that this is your heat source and this is your house. In the winter, everywhere gets cold, you feel uncomfortable, therefore you turn on your heater. Heater on. Basically, gradually the temperature of your house increases and reaches to the value that you desire. And you feel very comfortable. But because the temperature inside your house is higher than the environment temperature, some of the heat will leak through the walls of your house. Because of this leakage, in order to maintain the temperature of your house, you need to keep the heater on either continuously or periodically. And therefore you have to consume energy and pay money. If we would be able to reduce the amount of heat leakage that we have through the walls, then we would not need to turn on the heater a lot, and that is good for us. So how can we reduce this heat leakage through the walls? Two parameters are important. One of them is the so-called thermal resistance of the wall. So if we have a wall that has very high thermal resistance, it takes a lot of time for the heat to pass through this thermal resistance, and that will benefit us. So how can we increase the thermal resistance of the wall? For example, if we have a wall that is very thick. My grandparents' house had a wall of 75 centimeter thick. Or maybe they put thermal insulation inside the wall. That will also increase the thermal resistance. Or maybe we use double glass windows. That would increase the thermal resistance. So these are all good methods to increase the thermal resistance. But obviously your house is already built and it's very difficult and also costly to implement any of these methods after the house is there. So this is not what we are going to do, but at least we are aware of the effect. The second parameter that is very critical is the amount of surface area of the walls. So if you have a very big house, the surface area of the walls is also large, so a lot of heat will leak through the walls. However, if you have a very tiny house, because the surface areas are small, so the amount of heat leakage also decreases. Knowing this, maybe you immediately think that, okay, during the winter, we should live inside one room and only heat that room. Because obviously you cannot reduce the surface area of the walls of your house. That is already there. But you can move to one room and mostly spend your time in that room, therefore only heating that room. This is partly a clever idea, but it's not complete, because each room has a very large door, and every time you go to bathroom, you go to kitchen, you go to refrigerator, whatever, you open the door and a lot of heat from that room will escape through the other part of the house, and basically it's not the optimum solution. Knowing these two important parameters, surface area and thermal resistance, now I'm going to introduce you to the actual technology. Alright, so what we need is a table, something like this. The height of the table approximately 50 centimeter, the width and the length maybe 1 meter or a little bit more. We are going to cover this with blanket, and we have to put a heat source under this. In modern days, you can use an electric heater with thermostat. In the old days, actually, they used a kind of pot, and the pot was filled with ash, So every afternoon, they put the ash aside. Outside the house, they burn some charcoal, and when the charcoal was fiery, they bring it and put it inside this pot and cover the charcoal with the ash. Because the charcoals are covered with ash, they cannot receive a lot of oxygen, so they burn at very low speed. Therefore, this whole device, which we call it manqal, could produce slowly the heat for maybe 12 to 15 hours. So one time they made this manqal during the afternoon and put it under this device, which we call it Korsi. And this one basically created the heat during the whole night. We use the two methods that I just explained. Because the surface area of this Korsi is very small, and because we covered it with blanket, the thermal resistance of the walls is also high. So therefore, the heat cannot escape from underneath it easily. So with just a little bit of heat under this Korsi, we can keep it very warm during the whole night and day. So I'm going to cover it with blanket and then tell you a little bit more about it. Alright, so I covered it with blanket. On top of it, maybe you can put a piece of wood or something to have a flat surface. So your Korsi is ready. Under this, as I said, you have an electric heater with a thermostat, but because the volume of this is very small, the electric heater will turn on for 1 minute and then it will switch off. The temperature inside this Korsi will stay very warm, maybe 30 degrees, 32 degrees. And because we have a lot of blankets, so the heat cannot easily escape. So how to use it is basically during the day, obviously you're outside, you're not at home, you're working or doing whatever. So during the evening you come and you want to watch TV, you want to chat with your wife, or I don't know, work with your computer. So actually you don't need to walk around inside the house a lot. You are going to put your leg under this and you work with your computer or you watch TV here. Because under this is very warm, your legs are going to be quite warm. Even though inside the house you do not turn on anything else, maybe the temperature inside your house is, I don't know, 15 degrees Celsius, 12 degrees Celsius, but because your legs are very warm under this, you will be able to handle it, even though the upper body is cold. The point is, every time that you go outside, now for example, I go to toilet and come back, okay, outside is cold, so you feel a little bit cold. But when you come under this, because this is quite warm, within a minute, you will already feel comfortable. Obviously, with this method, you have to wear warm clothes inside your house. So you cannot wear short sleeve because everywhere else inside your house is going to be cold. Of course, you don't want to let the temperature of the house go also too low. For example, you don't want to get maybe below 12 degrees. I think for that, you should have another heater inside the house to keep the temperature inside your house more than 12, 13 degrees. And this is the place that you are going to spend most of the time during the evening. And even if you are at home during the day, you are going to stay near to this Korsi. At night, when you want to sleep, you're not going to sleep on your bed. You basically have to take a mattress and put it in front of this and sleep so that your legs are under it, and basically you sleep also here. So this is what you have to do. Now this one has other advantages. Apart from the fact that you are going to save a lot of money for the heating, it has some other advantages. For example, because this is the only place that is hot inside your house, then if you have a kid or if you have a wife, they all are going to be around this Korsi. And so you can see them, you can talk to them, and you can eat food and fruits together here. So it's a very warm atmosphere if you have such a device. But of course, it also comes with some risk. One of them is the risk of fire, for example, obviously. But you must make sure that the heat source that you put is not touching the blankets. It's somewhere in the center or somewhere in the corner. maybe 20 centimeter, 15 centimeter away from the walls, from the blankets. And also in the old time when they used the manqal with charcoals and ash, because that one consumes oxygen from the atmosphere under this Korsi, so it was a little bit of risk for suffocation. If a kid would stay under this for a very long time, that would have an issue. But of course nowadays with an electric heater, that problem is not there. The only big risk is fire, and sometimes your leg maybe, if you're not careful, your leg maybe touches the heater, and if the heater is too hot, then it can also kind of hurt your leg. But of course you can set the temperature of the heater to a mild value so that it never gets too hot. I need to sleep.